Hey everyone, it's me Dave. I wasn't planning on making another video essay for a few weeks, but after seeing what I've just seen, I kinda can't not. In the comment sections of my videos, I think I stumbled across one of the worst defenses of High Guardian Spice I think I've ever seen. Now, I have reviewed some crazy comments that I've gotten in the past, but those were mostly just for humor. This one's actually going to be a serious analysis. And in fact, it's a defense from a person who hasn't even seen the show. That's right, they haven't seen the show. This isn't a fan of the show defending it. This is just someone who has not seen the show but also wants to defend it anyway for some reason. And the funniest part about this is that despite the fact that they haven't seen the show and don't attempt to defend the writing at all, they still come up with some of the same arguments that a majority of people I've seen defending this show use. And there's a reason why a lot of the major arguments for this show don't actually require you watching the show for you to make them, and I'll explain why later. Also, I want to say right at the start, this isn't all arguments for the show, obviously. There are a bunch of different ones all over the internet. The internet's a big place, people make different arguments. However, I will say, I have seen these same arguments get repeated over and over and over again, both in other places online and also in my comment section. In fact, I've actually had arguments in the comment section with people who have similar ideals to the person who's posting this, although those people have actually bothered to watch the show before defending it. The reason I'm making a video on this one in particular is because, again, it's really dumb, how could I not? And also, it allows me to debunk most of these in one fell swoop, so I don't have to talk about them anymore. Now, the comment in question comes from this person here. I was thinking about blurring the name out, but then I realized they're posting public comments with the idea that people will publicly see them. If they were private messages, I would have blurred them, but they're not, so I guess we're going all in. Now, this person has left several comments on my channel and has also gotten into more long argument chains. I wonder why. But I'm mostly going to be focusing on the comment chain that I personally participated in, and it's also going to show you how some of these arguments are really, really stupid if you think about them. So why don't we get started with the first comment. Maybe I'm just old, but I've seen far worse mistakes in 80s America animated kid shows, G.I. Joe, Transformers, than any of these, yet those shows are beloved and this one is branded the worst ever. I don't get the hate. So right off the bat, we're comparing High Guardian Spice to shows that released 40 years ago. Really instills confidence. Now, I haven't seen a lot of 80s cartoons, but I'm willing to assume the ones that are branded as really great probably have things like, I don't know, good writing, likable characters, or sometimes even a functional plot. High Guardian Spice is lacking all three of those, so the animation being bad definitely does not help. Now, this right here is the beginnings of an argument that I've seen so many times, and it is a terrible one. The argument goes, other shows have problems that are similar, therefore those shows should automatically be bad as well. I think what people who make this argument don't realize is that problems add up. They don't just disappear when you move on to another one. It isn't just show has problem, therefore bad. The amount of problems matter. High Guardian Spice is packed with enough problems to load up a landfill. There are so many issues in so many aspects of this show. There are very few redeeming qualities. Yes, Amaryllis does exist, but that alone can't save the entire show. She's great, but not that great. Another form of this argument is saying that these bad things are standard for the genre or something like that. So I'll say this, if another show has the same problem as High Guardian Spice, that problem is also bad there. It doesn't mean that entire show is bad, because it could have a lot of redeeming qualities that make it better. And if High Guardian Spice is genre standard, I think we need to make some changes, because this isn't working. If the standard is garbage, maybe we should call it out and get it changed to something that isn't garbage? So me seeing this comment, my only response was, people hate it because of writing, not bad animation. Now, of course, maybe there are some people out there who hate it specifically because of bad animation, but that's not why I and many others hate the show. I even went out of my way at the start of the first animation errors video to say that animation errors aren't the main reason why I hate this show, and it's not a make or break thing for me. Do I think the animation's good? Absolutely not. It's terrible in a lot of places. It does get better later on, but it's too little too late. But that isn't really a major concern for me. Maybe it is for other people, I don't know, but that's just your personal taste, I guess. So they responded with, you've literally made like multiple videos ragging on the animation quality. So far in that video series I'm doing where I look at all the animation errors, I have made 2 videos on that. I've made a couple memes in the past that maybe showed some animation errors, but for the most part I've only made these 2 videos. One of which is only 2 minutes long. Compare that to my video essays on High Guardian Spice, in which I have over 8 of them, some of which are over 20 minutes long apiece. Gee, I wonder where my priorities are. I don't know if people realize this, but you can talk about a bad aspect of something, and that bad aspect doesn't have to be your main reason for hating it. You can bring up problems both big and small whenever you want. If you want to make 100 videos on why the trees in High Guardian Spice are annoying or something, go ahead, I won't stop you. I probably won't watch all of them, but you know, you do you. So I point this out in my reply post, and then all hell broke loose. This conversation transitioned from like a few quick snippets, maybe like one paragraph at most, to multi-paragraphs about how my channel is terrible, and how I'm responsible for all the harassment, and tons of other crazy shit we'll get to later. This motherfucker was posting full-on MLA-style formatted essays. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but it still baffles me that someone would go this hard in defending a show they had never even seen. What I'm going to say now is enjoy this next comment, because it's going to be one of the last shortish ones that I'm going to read today. Cool, so why make these videos? If you don't like something, even bad writing, you should instead focus your energies on stuff you do like. That you keep going back to this well makes me feel like ideologically you're opposed to this show, and given that it was written by a trans man, that doesn't bode well for your ideological convictions? Keep in mind I know nothing about this show and haven't watched a single piece of it yet outside of the mistakes you bring up and what others in the comment section have complained about. Oh my god. Where do I even start? Okay, let me just tackle this top to bottom. Now the first argument here is one that I've seen way too many times and it's starting to get on my nerves. The classic, you should just focus on the positive argument. People like this think talking about anything negative is a waste of time and you should instead focus your energies on talking about positive things. People like this just genuinely don't understand criticism at all. They have no idea what it is. I'm going to make this as simple as I can. If you want to fix something that's bad, you have to talk about why it's bad. If you want to improve, you're going to have to look at the negative aspects of a work and actually decide to make improvements upon them. If you only focus on the positives, you're going to miss out on why the negatives impact the show or whatever you're trying to make, and it's going to end up sucking. I've said this before and I've gotten many comments with the same sentiment. High Guardian Spice is the perfect teaching tool on what not to do when you're making a show, both on the production side and also in the writing of the show itself. This show may have been a huge disaster, but we can look at this disaster to learn how to avoid making the same mistakes in the future. When I watched this show, I didn't like it. I'm gonna be completely honest, I didn't like it. And I'm trying to explain why I didn't like it. What didn't click for me? Why didn't it work? That right there is incredibly important information. If you can figure out why something doesn't work, you can try to improve on it and make it better in the future. So to all the hippies out there that think for some reason you're only allowed to focus on positive things, you're not. And it's not a waste of energy either. It's actually incredibly important. It's how we make things better. So that's that one out of the way. Now let's get on to the next part. Good lord. The only reason you're talking about this show is because it was made by a trans person. This argument has spread throughout the internet like a poison. It is disgusting. Trying to implicate someone as being bigoted simply for criticizing the work of a certain identity group is a terrible practice, and it's also extremely childish. Now, of course, I do realize there are transphobes who hate this show just because they're transphobes. I know they exist, I hate them too. But here's the important part, I am not one of those people. If you took all the identity stuff out of this show and the writer wasn't trans, it would still suck because it's terrible. This is also ignoring the fact that I'm pretty sure Ray didn't write most of this. It was written by other people. So that terrible writing that I've been ragging on, a lot of it wasn't even due to him in the first place. I also like how this person talks about my ideological convictions like he has any idea what any of my quote-unquote ideological convictions are. Bitch, you don't know me, what the fuck are you talking about? This right here is the problem. They automatically assumed my convictions based simply on the fact that I don't like this show. That is the issue right there in and of itself. You should not automatically assume that a person only hates a work because of whatever identity the person who created it has. If that were the case, you could pin this argument on pretty much anyone who's ever criticized a fictional work of any kind. Let's say the writer of whatever you're talking about was white, now you hate white people. Let's say the writer of whatever you were talking about was gay, now you're homophobic. Now let's say that the writer of whatever you're talking about happened to be part of some weird political group, now you only hate it because you hate that political group. Using this argument, you could throw out the criticisms of any work written by a human being. This is an incredibly idiotic assumption to make, and it should not have been made in the first place. So I replied with this statement up here, and someone else jumped in, and I'll just let you read it for yourself while I'm talking. Now, before I show you his next comment, which is going to be huge, by the way, I want to talk about something very important. Earlier, I said there was a reason why some of the major arguments that fans of this show make could also be made by people who haven't even seen it, and there's a very important reason as to why. So I've pointed out 3 major arguments so far, and one thing you'll notice about each and every one of them is that all of them are deflections. They are not reasons why the show isn't bad, they're reasons why the show should be excused even though it is bad. It's mostly focused on getting you to stop criticizing it and also excusing all of its flaws because, I don't know, another show had the same flaws, I guess. This is perfectly exemplified by this next comment, which is going to go over a lot of stuff, so pay attention. I mean, if the art isn't the problem and it's the writing, and the writing is done by a trans man, it's not a far leap of logic to surmise that your personal issues might be clouding your judgment, which is corroborated by the number of people in the comments talking smack about She-Ra, another LGBT plus positive show with a poor budget and many animation mistakes. So this is the first part of a really long comment, and I'll break it down into sections to make this easier. First and foremost, yes, it is a leap in logic to assume I only hate it because there's a trans man behind it. Because, again, most of the writing wasn't even done by Ray. So apparently I hate the writing because I'm transphobic, even though the writing wasn't done by a trans person? And here also we see the introduction of another tactic that I've seen many times when people are trying to defend this show in comment sections. The random inclusion of other shows that have nothing to do with this one. One thing that you've noticed about this conversation is that it's being steered all over the place. We're randomly jumping back and forth to different points, one about the comment section, one about me being transphobic, left, right, and center. And another aspect of this is going to be very important to the conversation later, so I'll bring it up now. It's the argument as to whether or not I'm responsible for the people in my comment section. This should be obvious, but I'm going to say it. I do not agree with everyone in my comment section. This should have been evident right then and there because this is me actively arguing with someone in the comment section. If someone says dumb shit in the comments, that's not on me, that's them, that's their ideas, not mine. I'm not some master puppeteer who's controlling every single thing these people comment. No, they're their own people with their own opinions. People can have different outlooks on the show than me, and they comment about those different outlooks all the time, so implicating me for their own opinions is really, really stupid. As for the thing about She-Ra, I haven't seen She-Ra, so I have no fucking idea what that show is like. It could be the best show of all time for all I know. And I really don't care either, since we're talking about High Guardian Spice, not She-Ra. You frame these mistakes as crimes against humanity, when in reality they simply didn't have the budget. According to the wiki, they had half the budget of a normal animated show would have, and anyone who understands animation knows that every second of animation costs money. Since the animation is done overseas, if the animation comes back with mistakes, which they always do, money in the budget is used for retakes, corrections, and fixing big and small. But if they don't have the budget, you know what happens? It stays broken. This right here is what pissed me off a lot, because this guy is saying that I'm saying that animation errors are crimes against humanity, even though in the video I specifically said that they weren't a major issue to me. Not only that, but I explicitly said earlier in comments before he posted this one that the animation errors were not the reason I hated the show, the writing was. So can this guy not read? Was he not paying attention to me? Did he just magically forget earlier that I said the animation errors weren't a make or break thing for me? This is another issue I have with comment section arguments. Nobody can read and they constantly forget things they read like 2 minutes ago. But now it's time for argument number 4. You can't criticize this show, it had a low budget. The classic one, the one used by Ray himself, excusing all the flaws with the show simply due to the fact that there were production problems and there was a low budget. Let me put this argument in the form of an analogy, alright? Imagine that you went to a restaurant and you ordered a steak, and the steak came to you, it was undercooked, and it also had maggots in it. When you complain about how the food was terrible, the chef goes into a sob story about how the management was terrible, they had a low budget, and they just couldn't afford proper food. And then they promise you that the steak would have been delicious if they've just been given the proper resources. Knowing all that, would you still want to eat that steak? Oh yeah, you wouldn't, because the production issues aside, it doesn't matter, the steak is still terrible. The budget being low is an explanation as to why the show is bad, not an excuse for it not being bad. Again, it's a deflection. When you make this argument, you're saying that even though the show is completely terrible, we should just ignore all of its problems and deal with it anyway because it had a low budget. But all of this had me asking one very important question. What was the budget of High Guardian Spice? Anyone know? Well, the wiki sources Daft Pina's estimate of it being around $275,000 per episode, and then they compare it to some other cartoons. And when I saw the figures for the other cartoons, it started making me ask some questions. Specifically, how the fuck do these cartoons have such high budgets? Let's compare it to anime, which looks way better than cartoons on average, I'm not gonna lie. I'm referencing this article right here, which goes over some of the budgets for popular anime. One Punch Man, $70,000 through $80,000 per episode. Demon Slayer, $80,000 per episode. Naruto Shippuden, $90,000 to $100,000 per episode. My Hero Academia, $110,000 per episode. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, $120,000 per episode. Black Clover, $140,000 per episode. Jujutsu Kaisen, $150,000 per episode. Attack on Titan, $150,000 to $160,000 per. I could go on, but this is fucking ridiculous. How on earth do some of these cartoons have budgets that are like double this shit, and yet somehow it looks way worse? Not to mention, this was a cartoon made by Crunchyroll, someone who works with anime all the time, and it was sourced to Korean studios. Now again, I'm not in the animation industry, so maybe there's something here I'm just missing, but I just don't understand how these people have way more money than this anime, and yet somehow it still looks way worse. It feels like there was huge mismanagement going on here, that's what I think. Again, like I said in the Animation Errors video, they were hiring 11 storyboard artists for a single episode, and a lot of the episodes that I've seen of other cartoons have like 2 or 3 storyboard artists, not 11. In High Guardian Spice, even on the lower end, it was like 6 to 8 different storyboard artists for a single episode, and seeing that makes me wonder if they were mishiring in some other areas as well. You think if they had half the budget that they were supposed to in order to make it good, they wouldn't be wasting money on hiring unnecessary people, but whatever. Maybe most of the budget went into the 2-parter episodes 8 and 9, because that animation looks way better than most of the rest of the series. But here comes the worst part. I have no idea if Daft Pina's estimate of the budget is even correct. It could be wrong. They could have had way less or way more, but since this is the figure that this guy is sourcing, I guess I'm going to use it. But again, even if we assume that this budget was so incredibly low that they couldn't really do anything with it, it still doesn't make the show any better. The show is still bad. Again, all this amounts to is a deflection. That's all it is. If this show was bad because it had a low budget and was mismanaged by Crunchyroll, all the more reason to call it out so these companies learn not to do shit like this in the future. Listening to the artists on She-Ra, and that was a common issue. Animation would come back improperly timed or wrong, or there'd be a mistake, and they would have to praise which shots could be afforded to be sent back and fixed. So when I see someone making multiple videos about the animation errors like this, riling up people who don't know how animation production works, and dedicating so much time on a show that's largely LGBTQ positive, it's hard not to see this as a targeted attack. That's right, according to Mr. She-Ra over here, criticizing someone's show is a personal attack against them. Okay guys, I don't want to use the meme, but I have to use the meme, so forgive me for this. Okay, you ready? I'm going to use the meme. 3, 2, 1.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
Okay, there, I used it once, never again. So, I shouldn't have to explain this, but criticism of a show someone made is not a personal or targeted attack against them. I'm not doing this to attack Ray, the creator. I think Ray is a perfectly fine guy. He seems nice. However, I think the show is terrible, so I'm going to treat it as it was terrible. Again, this is another deflection, trying to stop me from criticizing the show simply because he thinks it's a targeted attack, whatever the fuck that means. And again, he points out that I'm quote-unquote riling people up to make them angry about the animation errors, even though I said in the video, again, that the animation errors weren't a major issue for me. The reason I'm making those videos is for entertainment purposes, because I was curious. How many animation errors were there? Where were they at? People have always talked about how the animation errors are crazy, so I wanted to see how many were there. I didn't do this for the purpose of making it a targeted attack. That's not even close to the reason why I make these videos. If you're actually curious as to why I'm still making videos on High Guardian Spice, I made an entire video explaining why, called Why Are We Still Talking About High Guardian Spice? Just go watch that. So no, I'm not doing this for a targeted attack. That's fucking ludicrous. This guy is acting like I'm some sort of supervillain committing the heinous crime of talking about a show. And it gets worse. Believe me, it gets worse. I point out some of the same issues that I showed you earlier, and he responds with another huge essay. Buckle in, this shit's about to get wild. You kind of are responsible for your commenters though. You can call them out and tell them to not be offensive or make attacks on other shows. That's part of your responsibility as a content creator, so don't give me that I can't control my fans bull. This guy is acting like I'm responsible to babysit a bunch of crazy lunatics on the internet. It is not part of my responsibility as a content creator to act as the internet police and call out every single bad actor in existence. If they say dumb shit, that's on them, not me. I've never told anyone to attack any shows unfairly. I've never told anyone to harass anybody. So if they do that, they're the ones at fault. I got nothing to do with it. Now, if I were actively encouraging it and telling people to do it, then yes, I would be wrong, but I've never told anyone to do anything like that. I'm starting to think what happened here is somebody criticized She-Ra or something, and this guy got uber pissed off and is now blaming me for the attack against She-Ra. I have never once mentioned She-Ra before this point, but apparently I'm the one responsible for this unholy crusade against this random show. I've seen people like this before, honestly. They think that you're responsible for every negative thing people say in the comment section and want you to go down and police every single one like you're some kind of trooper. If you don't make call-outs against every single bad person who comments on your videos, it's not enough for them and they freak out about it. I want to point out that a lot of people who are harassing Ray or saying derogatory stuff are a bunch of trolls who actively want attention, so going to give them attention would be the worst mistake you could make. And they likely wouldn't listen to me anyway. I mean, you aren't listening to me, and I'm talking directly to you, so that should tell you all you need to know about commenters being able to listen to YouTubers. But you need to understand that the more you make fun of a show, the more you send other people to harass the creators and people responsible, which you say you're against doing. 1 video makes sense, 2 okay, but 3 or more is borderline obsessive at this point, and it looks less like the show is bad and more like you have a personal vendetta against it. I also just can't praise the concept that it's okay to make fun of a show that a specific creator made, assuming that it does not hurt the creator themselves, but also you don't condone harassing the creators while continuing to make fun of the creators. The mental gymnastics to justify your continued videos is exhausting. This dumbass is talking about mental gymnastics, meanwhile his logic is leaping around like a trapeze artist. He's trying to guilt trip me into not making content specifically because of a bunch of loonies on the internet which I have no control over. He also views criticism or making fun of the show as a personal attack against the creators, which it's not. I understand that Ray probably put a lot of work into this and he really loves it, but it's terrible, it's bad, and it's worth being made fun of. When you make something that's bad, it sucks when people make fun of it, I know, but it is what it is. There are people who unfairly harass Ray, I know that, but I am not one of those people. These videos are not for the sake of harassing the creators, they're for the sake of making fun of a bad show. I also love this narcissistic attitude of acting like you're the arbiter of how long someone is allowed to make videos on a show. He's making these weird arbitrary rules saying you're only allowed to make 3 videos on a show for some reason, and it's ridiculous. If I have something to say about the show, I should be allowed to say it. I shouldn't have to be restricted to 3 videos. If I have more than 3 videos worth of things to say about the show, I should be allowed to say them. If I want to make a billion videos about High Guardian Spice, I will do it because I want to do it. And again, I've already explained why I'm still making videos on this show. I have an entire video explaining why. It sucks nobody bothered to watch it. And sure, maybe the show actually is bad. It is. But no amount of bad writing makes up for the amount of negativity you're unleashing here and encouraging. Like I've said, I've seen G.I. Joe episodes with worse animation than this, and you guys don't give a crap about that. Why this specific show? Why out of all other pieces of crap out there do you focus on this one? Again, the reason I'm talking about this show in particular is 1, because I'm making an abridged series for it, and 2, it has so many problems that it acts as the perfect teaching tool. That's the part I don't get. If I don't like something, I might say something, but I'll move on. I don't spend hours editing videos detailing every little nitpicky piece of trivia I can concoct for weeks on end. Have you ever considered the fact that maybe I like editing videos? I know that sounds crazy, but maybe I actually enjoy making content, and people enjoy watching the content. So I make the content. I know that sounds so alien, but you have to believe me. Also, he's echoing the sentiment that I've seen online where people think if you criticize something small in a show, it's suddenly all nitpicky and everything you've ever said is all nitpicks. Once again, you can talk about small issues because small issues add up. If there's 100 small issues, then yeah, I think focusing on them is worthwhile. But to some of these people, if every single criticism you throw out isn't the hardest hitting thing in existence and isn't the hugest issue, it's suddenly all terrible and needs to be thrown out anyway. Even if I go out of my way to mention multiple times that I think an issue is small, these people still think I'm saying it's the biggest issue ever and it destroys the show. So I point all this out, and he responds with the comment that made me rage quit this conversation. Sounds like you're just lazy then. You can't stop people from making bad choices in your comment section. Yeah, no shit. But you can still denounce them and try to curb the hate rather than letting it fester. It's your channel and your videos. It's your responsibility to curate things on your channel. Saying it's not my responsibility is just taking the easy way out and refusing to actually have convictions. This guy went off about my imaginary convictions against trans people, and now he's saying I don't have convictions? What the fuck? Guy can't even stay consistent with his own arguments. I guess I just expected better, and you're not showing me you're capable of being better. This comment right here is the one that made me want to make this video. This guy has been saying some of the dumbest shit I think I've ever heard, making really dumb arguments, ignoring his own arguments, and ignoring the things I've been saying, and then he follows that up with the most pretentious statement I've ever seen online. Well, guess what, my friend? I didn't expect you to be better, and you still somehow disappointed me. So I rage quit the conversation after this. I just couldn't handle it. The stupidity was getting too much. It was reaching dangerous levels. I left a comment saying how these comment section arguments aren't really productive, and this was just getting dumber and dumber by the second, then bailed. I think from now on, I'm done trying to argue with people in comment sections. I never should have started in the first place. It's never productive. The comment sections on YouTube, if you aren't aware, are filled with some of the dumbest shit in history. It's even worse than Twitter. Not to say that all comments are bad, there are a lot of good ones, such as this one here, which I'll throw up on screen just because I'm very petty. What I like about your criticism is that so far I haven't found anything transphobic/homophobic. It's difficult to find a review of this show that targets its bad writing while staying away from bigotry. Whoa, what's this? I thought my videos were all transphobic personal attacks against the creator. It's so weird how all that supposed transphobia magically disappears if you, actually listen to my videos. So since that comment I've been reviewing wants me to be the internet police, fine, I'll do it. Don't harass the creators of High Guardian Spice. If you want to make fun of the show, that's fine, just do it without harassing the creators or badgering them about it. So there you go, I said it. How much do you want to bet that's probably not going to be enough for this person? Because it's never enough. I'm pretty sure unless I'm going out of my way in every single video to curtail every single hate mob in existence, this guy is probably still not going to be approving. So to end this video off, I'm done arguing with people about High Guardian Spice in comments. I'm just done. It never leads to anything productive, and it's always a waste of time. They always come back with the same lame excuses, and it never changes. And I can't control what you do, but I advise you not to do it either, because it's probably going to be a waste of your time as well. You're not going to get anything done. And remember, I'm the supervillain behind everything bad that's happened around High Guardian Spice.
I am the domination of the internet.